Hi, this is Tom from the Blue Dot, and today we're going to review the Motorola Xoom. This is a tablet by Motorola. This is the Wi-Fi version. So upon handling this, it's a bit heavier. I'm used to tablets that are 7-inch designs. This is a much larger. This is about 10.1 inches. At least that's what the display is. That's the display size we saw a few years ago. It was pretty typical. It still is around, but we're starting to see a lot more mini sizes that are like 7 inches, about the size of a paperback book. And I believe the Motorola Xoom 2 has one. I'm not certain, I may be wrong. But let's take a look at this device. Now, upon handling it, it's a bit heavier. That is because, well, it's a larger device than what I'm used to. So it's not going to be difficult to lug around. It's actually pretty easy to hold in one hand. There are plenty of cases for this. You probably want to throw it into a bag, and I would suggest getting some protective cover for the front here. Now, up top, we have the camera. There's a front-facing camera. And the logo, the screen, which you can see when I reflect it. Underneath, we have the micro USB charge port, HDMI out. This is for a charge station, and this is the proprietary charging port for the Motorola Xoom. All phones, at least all smartphones now, have to have micro. That rule does not apply to tablets, at least I don't think they do yet. So you'll see a lot of such as Samsung has their own charger. This one has their own charger. Alright, so on the back we have the 5-megapixel camera that also records in 720p HD. We have a microphone and I believe it's a speaker as well. Actually, they're both speakers. So you do have some stereo sound here. The power button, which is oddly placed in the back. Up here's the headphone jack and the micro SD card slot. And on the left, we'll have the volume rockers. So let's turn this on. I don't personally like how they have the power button back here. I feel like you might accidentally touch it, but I mean, who holds their tablet like this? So that might not happen. So let's turn that on. All right, slide to unlock. Okay, so if you have an Android device or have ever handled an Android device, this will be pretty recognizable to you, at least from the basic standpoint. There seems to be a lot more space, that's for sure, but it's pretty much the same thing going on here. This is a beautiful display. Its resolution is 1280 by 800 pixels with a pixel density of 149 ppi. It's not as impressive as like a Retina display would be or some of Samsung's HD displays, but it's still pretty sharp. It's really bright, and of course you can finagle with that brightness like you can on any other smartphone or smart tablet device. It is a dual-core device, so it can keep up with every app out there. It's pretty powerful, which is nice in a tablet, especially an affordable tablet now. I mean, the Xoom 2 came out, so this is a much more affordable tablet right now, and it's still pretty up-to-date. I mean, it's only a year older than the Xoom 2, and it runs perfectly well. It has a built-in storage of 32 gigabytes with the typical, 32 gigabyte micro SD card expandable. So just like a cell phone, it has pretty much the same features when it comes to hard drive space. Now, that's how I suggest looking at these tablets, especially Android devices. Try to think of them as an oversized phone. If you think of it that way, then you might not be too confused by how it works and where to look for certain things. There's a little bit different down here, and we'll get to that in a second, but it essentially runs exactly the same. In fact, even all the apps that you've downloaded on your Google phone, or Android phone I should say, can and will work on this unless it involves using 3G or 4G, but typically they should work just fine over Wi-Fi. Alright, so let's check out the bottom here. This is running Jelly Bean. So you have a few more options with your settings, which you can play around with later, but down here we have the back, the home, recent apps button. Over here you have pretty much your time settings, what you're connected to wirelessly, your battery, and then this is a different symbol, and you'll see it on some Jelly Bean devices. This is settings. So if you click on that, the settings will pop up in the right hand corner, and you pretty much have all the controls that you've had before. You can even go more in-depth settings down here. And this over here should look immediately familiar to you if you use an Android device. Over here is just pretty much, if you click on something, it'll appear over here as opposed to take up the whole screen. Alright, so let's play around with the camera. So let's go to the apps, which is way up here in the right hand corner. And let's go to camera. Now you're going to get a lot of shots of me in the reflection here. Alright, I really like the camera in this, and that the zoom is controlled with this. It's a digital zoom, so I mean, if you take a look, like let's say I zoom in on that wall, like you can tell right away it gets kind of pixelated. And that's going to happen on a digital zoom, but it's nice that you have this easy slide control. I still don't know that many people who record with a tablet, but it's really nice that you have that kind of feature. Now the settings button is conveniently placed where your thumb is going to be the entire time, so if you click that, it rotates out really nicely and gives you all the controls that you'll need. You have your exposure, white balance, scene mode, stuff like that, and turning off and on location. Now there's a 5 megapixel camera, so it's pretty decent, but for the time that it came out, most phones had 8 or more. So 5 megapixels isn't impressive, but I mean, it's a tablet. Probably shouldn't be taking that many pictures with it anyway, so 5 megapixels is actually pretty good for a tablet. So let's go back. Check out the front-facing camera. The front-facing camera is 2 megapixels, which is actually better than the typical phone front-facing camera, and that's because I think they kept in mind that these tablets will be used a lot more for surfing the web and chatting online with the Skype and stuff, so they want to make the front-facing camera a little bit better. So we'll turn that on. Alright, and it works pretty good. It's a little digital, a little bit of pixelation on the edges here, but that's fine. I mean, I don't think the picture's supposed to be blown up that big. So when you're on Skype, the picture will of course be smaller for the person looking at you. Let's see. Alright, so let's check out the video camera, which you switched to down here. And pretty much all the same options. It goes into kind of a letterbox size there, which is the HD size, 720p. And you can go down to standard at 480p if you don't want to take up any space in your on your SD card. And you have a lot of other little apps on here. You have some weird effects like big eyes, big nose, stuff like that you can kind of finagle with. If you've ever had a Mac or something where they have that webcam program that kind of messes with people's faces, it's kind of akin to that. You have white balance, of course you can turn on and off the flash like it's a flashlight. And down here is the panorama, which actually works really well. If you press the green button here, it'll start for you and tell you how far you've gone down at the bottom. And it shows you the edge here of what it's taking a picture of. It works okay. You would probably work a lot better if you were in an environment with a lot more detail. I just tried it in this room. There's not really much going on around me. There's pretty much an empty office actually. But yeah, it did not do a very good job of putting it all together. Like, see here, it kind of messed up. There's not many details going on. So I'm just going to cancel that. So if you're in a city or you're taking a picture of a really good landscape, I've heard it is actually pretty decent. Alright, now we're going to check out some of the stock apps that come with this device. And we got a few choices here. Of course you can download more. There's the browser, calculator, calendar, the camera. I don't want to activate this device. I would show you what the stock keyboard looks like. But I've tried it on a friend's tablet. It's pretty much just typical Android stock keyboard. You can always download different ones again, just like any other Android device. Now the cool thing about this is just like before I told you there's Jelly Bean and ice cream sandwich is the same way, where these are all the apps we have. But if you swipe to the right, you'll see that you get this other thing. They've decided to merge widgets and apps. So if you had a lot more apps, you'd be flipping through them all the time. You can actually just go up top, click on this, and you have a bunch of options of things to be on the screen, which is really cool. And some apps that you download will have them built in. So if I wanted to put my picture gallery on my home page, it gives you a nice, and it's kind of cool that it nudges things over a bit if you want them to be someplace else, you know. And if I don't want it to be there, just get rid of it. Now this is a really comfortable tablet device. It holds really well in your hand. It gives you just enough lip over here to hold it with one hand and still be able to see all of the screen. It's more comfortable to hold it with two. Holding it this way, which you're welcome to do, it flips over for you. I don't know, I guess this is good for reading a book, but you typically wouldn't read too many books on a tablet. But it works just as well. One thing to worry about though, if you're going to flip it sideways, flip it clockwise. Try not to flip it the other way because again, the power button is right there. So you want to try to keep your hand, you know, typically a little bit further away from that so you don't accidentally put your tablet to sleep or turn it off. So that's it for the Motorola Xoom Wi-Fi. If you're looking for an affordable, larger tablet that you can maybe watch movies in bed or surf the web and be able to see everything on the screen really easily, this is a tablet for you. It's very affordable for a tablet this size and this powerful. Again, it is only a Wi-Fi device, but the only tablets I've ever had are Wi-Fi and they work great. If you have any questions, just ask them below. My name is Tom from the Blue Dot. Thanks for watching.